Welcome to The Cleaning, a podcast about Apple TV Plus' show Silo Season 2. My name is Catfish, and with me, as always, is someone who really needs to do a Severance podcast. It's Bubba!
I'm so happy to be here with someone who, like Amundson's dad, is a nasty bastard. Catfish, we're talking about Season 2, Episode 8, The Book of Quinn.
Yes.
Now, this is I always say the official description. You ready? Juliette discovers something happened to Solo. I'm pretty sure she did that at the very end of Episode 7, okay? Bernard makes an offer to Walker. Now, that definitely happened. And Lukas meets with Salvador Quinn's descendants. That definitely happened. On this podcast, we're going to rank it. We're going to do our better in the silo. All the usual stuff we do. And it's going to be thrilling because now we're going to have both hosts. So shocking. Catfish, do you want to give us your thoughts on episode 10?
Bubba,
episode 8.
I would love to. I gave this 8 out of 10, what I like to call triple S's.
Triple S's?
Yeah, that's how we refer to our favorite judge now, the staggeringly stupid Sims. Now, Bubba,
interesting. But 8 out of 10 is a positive. That's
8 out of 10.
A minus, B plus. Yeah, okay.
Very good. And as you know, a lot of our listeners noted, I wasn't here last week. I thank you for all the kind words and thoughts. That was super, super nice of you. Still dealing with some stuff, but a balm to my soul is sitting here and talking about Silo with Bubba. So this week I have carved out some serious time so we can have fun. But everyone wants to know, what about last week?
Yeah.
I was still a Bernard bro last week, Bubba.
Yes.
Because he had no choice but to kill the judge due to what I like to call triple C.
Wait, triple C?
Yes, we all know that as Common's minuscule curiosity. And so obviously people are wondering, am I still a Bernard bro? I mean,
there's no way. Can I predict?
Yeah.
There is no way when he is deliciously manipulating Walker that you not only aren't a Bernard bro, but you have literally nominated yourself for president. You've given yourself a blue badge so you can go around. You can go around like Lukas saying Bernard is the best.
Bubba, you are completely wrong because much has changed this week and Bernard seems to be losing control. And we know he's ready to dump Lukas when he's done with him.
That feels true.
But also, he's still no traitor like Walker. Yes, obviously, hashtag Bernard, bro. I'm still a Bernard, bro, this week. Bubba, I really like this episode for all the moving pieces that were coming together. I mean, things happened in this episode I've been begging for a week. Juliette's dad, Doc, our buddy, Ian Glenn, finally shows a personality this week. He finally shows some emotion. That is
some
great.
Bandages, man. Give him some bandages.
That is great. We also, we've talked about who wears the pants in the Sims family, and we find out not only does Camille wear the pants, but she doesn't even bother to tell her husband where she bought them from.
Wait a minute.
He's like, hey, can we talk about things from now on before you do these crazy things? She's like, sure. And then she goes behind his back and talks to Amundsen. It's just so much good stuff is going on in this episode. Things are coming to a head.
That's true.
We are finding out all about Salvador Quinn's business. Yes. And, I mean, big surprise, Bubba.
Let's hear it.
There are other people in what we call Matt Gates's favorite silo 17. So, Bubba, I don't know why I didn't give this episode a 9. You know what? I'm going to change it to a 9. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 staggeringly stupid Sims for tonight, Bubba. Now we always say, who cares what we think? And in your case, that's true. But let's hear what you have to say anyway, Bubba. What's your rating for this week?
I have the same rating as you. I'm going 8 double Fs out of 10.
Double Fs?
Yes. And that is fluctuating feelings. I get really high and feel great about the episode. And then I realize, wait, what's going on? Now, let me say, I made a joke about this on the podcast you weren't on, Catfish, about how in episode 7, I thought things were tense. And then the show cuts to a scene of pancakes for Little Sims Jr. And you're like, that felt like it really destroyed the tension of the episode. In this episode, I should be higher than 8 out of 10 because I actually
you should be 9 because that's what my actual
I should
grade
be
is now.
because every scene in this or every kind of storyline in this works. It's dramatic. It is like tense. I could go through them all. The great tense beginning with Juliette, good drama with Lukas trying to use his power for a bit. Love Bernard dropping the truth on Lukas about Salvador Quinn and the forgetting drug. Loved Patrick Kennedy spoiling ruining Billings' wife. I didn't tell you this red level relic stuff. Loved the Bernard scene. I think though that a bit like last week where I was like, boy, this pancake scene, and it's like the stakes are so low. Like we're in this really great tense scene. We cut to a low scene. Then we're back up for the tense scene. I think it was worse in this episode, even though they all work. It's just they're all on such different levels. Like, and I'm going to go, I don't know why I suddenly thought of this. I was trying to think of a good example. And it's a bit of spoiler on Breaking Bad. But on Breaking Bad, you had life or death situations, hiding from the law, trying to catch bad guys, like all this super tense, high stuff. And occasionally you had a character who had a shoplifting issue. And somehow Breaking Bad was able to kind of mix those together. But the shoplifting issue, which is bad and dramatic and can be dramatic, it never had to fight with the super dramatic, oh my God, here's a gunfight scene. They would happen at different times, and the show found a way to weave them together. Everything in this was wonderful, but I still don't know if they do a great job of weaving it together. Like Juliette stuff is so tense, and it does feel like it's in a different time frame than the other stuff. Let me say one final thing. I'll go ahead. I'll do it because of you, Catfish. I'm going to go up to 9 out of 10.
Yes!
I'm going to go up to 9 out of 10 because of the cheeky line that the showrunners put in there where they said, this has nothing to do with wool. And yes, I keep holding up the book Wool because I'm like, I read this book and I was so excited for this show. And here finally the showrunners put somebody in the episode saying this has nothing to do with wool because 90% of it, maybe more, is not in the book, not from the book. You're wondering why they're doing it, but it's still dramatic. If they could find a way to kind of ride these waves of tension in the episode, I would go 10 out of 10. But this was really good. There, I've rambled. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I like. Are you sure there's nothing else you want to say, positive or negative, before we move on to some listener feedback?
Well, I think no. We've got to get to that, Catfish.
All right, let's do it.
This is really it. So, a listener, we love you guys to send us social media posts. We love for you to write down on YouTube comments. It is the lifeblood. We like to think of this as you try to talk to your friends about shows, right? And nobody watches the same thing. So you turn to a podcast because we're like your two friends who are watching it with you and talking about it with you. And I love Hobo Deluxe 007 on YouTube, who gives us these comments which disagree with me. And I love that he disagrees with me, but he was really disagreed with me last week where he said, listen, Bubba, if you're not happy with episode 7, you're never going to be happy with any episode of this show. And then,
well, he's got you right there.
And then Critical Thinker wrote, listen, you're going off on this about the book this, the book that. This isn't the book. It's a show based on the books. And let me say, sometimes not very based on them at all, based on the situation, maybe. And he calls me a book snob. And then Sal said there are dozens of podcasts that cover the show with hosts who have read the book. This is the only one where one of the hosts complains, and that's you, Bubba. Nobody complains as much as you do. Whoa. So I went in, and I went and actually looked at, I don't try not to listen. We have online friends like Alicia and Luke who do a podcast that's great. We have, plenty of people do podcasts. So I went in, I didn't want to listen to it because I don't want to get spoiled, but I looked at our friends at Post-Show Recaps. You can look up the transcript. And I looked up the transcript for this episode 8 before I even saw the episode. And their podcast said, episode 8 picks up the pace a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of, so they're mentioning it on their show. Maybe they're not as passionate, as crazy as I am about, hey, pick up the pace. In their podcast, it was like, episode 8 picks up the pace a little bit. At least that's how the transcript reads. So
Bubba, I just want to jump in here because it's funny because one of the main things you talked about last year was that the reveal at the end of the season is something that you find out early on in the books.
Right.
And what I found fascinating was I saw an article by someone who said, I'm not enjoying season 2 of Silo as much as season 1. And why? Because they are not finding themselves. This was a few episodes ago, so maybe it was before the Lukas, Salvador Quinn stuff was kicking in. But they're like, there wasn't some big overall like mystery for the season, meaning that they were so delighted as a non-book reader to have the end of the first season be something that in the books we find out right away, but in the first season was the big reveal. So I can see for people who are not reading the books that they're enjoying what is being presented to them. And I agree, Bubba, you are a grumpy grandpa.
Well, let me say that if you wanted that, if the show's writers wanted that, this episode gives up the ghost, which is from the books. Yes, there are other people in Silo 17 and Silo. You know, if you wanted that, who are those people? If you needed a mystery, what's going on there, almost a Lost-like mystery, who are these people on the other side of the island? They could have built that up earlier, but Catfish, you didn't even notice when the show tried to do, hey, here's a perspective of somebody else looking at Silo. And
no, they did. They really only gave that one. So, Bubba, you know what? I will say this, though. Yeah. Jennifer Obina says, wow, Bubba, so much passion, and she gave you a heart. She loves your passion. Now, Nick Blood says, I love RF.
Rebecca Ferguson.
And season 1. Season 2, episode 7, I can barely even watch. I hate this season. Whoa. Now, Nick Blood, this is what I would like to hear. For people who enjoyed season 1 and aren't enjoying season 2, what is it about this season that you feel is different than season 1? So that would be really good if we could get some feedback on that next week. I would love that. Now, Heath Centazzo, our good friend at Heath Actor, says, a couple episodes behind. Did this show get better, or do I just rewatch something else?
Right. So part of my passion, and this is back to somebody like Hobo Deluxe, why are you even watching if you can get frustrated with the show, is I know the highs the show can hit. In this episode, season 2, episode 8, I think when Rebecca Ferguson, aka Juliette, has the axe, she's like defending herself. She gets hit with an arrow. That is like the adrenaline rush. That is the tension. That is what I personally love and think the show can do a great job of. And again, I think every storyline in this show is relatively successful. But you see, there are some people, and we don't include a lot of super negative comments. We get them. People are just out on the show. And so the fact that I'm in between, but I'm very passionate about this show and I want it to be great. Hopefully you guys like it. And let me know if I'm too critical. I can take it.
No, and Bubba, how would they let us know what they think, whether they agree with you, or especially if they want to come up with some especially mean criticism of you that I would love to read on this podcast next week? How should they reach out to us?
On all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, at Facebook, at double PHQ, the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at double PHQ on all those social media platforms. If you're on YouTube and you have a negative comment, positive comment, we want to hear them. You're a part of this community. You're the friend we're watching this show with. And we want to thank you guys so much. 2025, let's do it. And once again, we love to say, who cares what we think? We want to know what you think. Well, guess what? Some certain television critics are super high on this show. Mashable.com, they called it the 21st best show of 2024. Screen Rant ranked it number 19 of the best shows of 2024. Phantom Wire had it at number 10. USA Today said it was the 9th best show. This is season 2 they're talking about. 9th best show of 2024. And Games Radar ranked it as the 7th best show. This is season 2, the 7th best show of 2024. So if you're super positive like that, we want to know that as well. You could be positive about the show and still be negative about me. Charlie Brown theme, somebody play it.
All right, well, listen, let's get to it. We've got a game. Our game every week is based solely on what is happening in the silo this week. Could be either one, Silo 17 or Silo 18.
Yep.
Is it better where we are in modern times, wherever you find yourself around the globe? Are you better off than the people in the silo, or are the people in the silo better off than you? Bubba, based on episode 8, what's your answer?
Boy, I'm going to upset even more people than this.
Yeah.
So think about it. In this episode, Juliette is just trying to mind her own business. She doesn't, sometimes says, I don't care about Solo. Just get me the thing that he had. He had something I need. But she's walking around relatively minding her own business, and she's shot with a frigging arrow. Hell no, that is crazy. And obviously better than our real world, where you go out and you can get shot with a gun here in the United States. Second Amendment nuts, here we go. So I'm saying better in the silo, where you only get shot with an arrow. How about you, Catfish? What's the best place?
Well, Bubba, in the silo, we have a leader, Bernard, who, as Sim says, is losing his followers and is bound to do any crazy shit he has to do to stay in power.
That's true.
So clearly, better in the silo.
What?
All right, Bubba. Now it's time to the episode recap. We've got a bunch of different storylines. We got the Silo 17. We got Down Deep, Shirley Knox and the Rebellion. We've got Down Deep with Billings and Hank. We got Down Deep with Walker. We got Bernard versus the Down Deep. We got the Sims family drama. We got Lukas, Bernard, and the Message. That's it. That's a lot of storylines. What do you want to cover first, Bubba?
Well, we normally cover things we're not as into first. But because Silo 17 is like its own land. This is like Daenerys off in Essos doing whatever she wants to do compared to Game of Thrones. I say, even though this actually was my favorite stuff of the episode, or the tense stuff, the stuff where I sat up in my chair like, ooh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I say let's start with it. And I'll start number one by saying the show set me up great with Solo telling Juliette, if you come too fast, you're going to get the bends. This is going to happen to you. I don't know anything about the bends. I'm not a scuba diver. I've snorkeled. I've never scuba dived. But it set me up for the physical pain she was in. But also the tenseness of about, oh my God, there are pools of blood everywhere. She's picking up an axe. She doesn't know what she's going to find. This was an incredible start to the episode, I thought. What about you? And have you do scuba dive? Maybe I'm wrong.
I've done some water stuff. I'm well aware of what the bends is. Okay. But we start off, we see Juliette up on top, but no Solo.
No.
She sees an axe.
Yeah.
She sees some blood.
Yeah, always a good sign, an axe and blood.
Things are disturbed. Then she starts struggling from the bench. She grabs the axe. And then she's like, and then it finally occurs to her, who is the person with the strongest medical knowledge that's closest to her? And she realizes it's not her dad. It's Solo. So she go back into the water to help solve her issue. Now she
really smart.
Yeah,
I'm always tough on Juliette, but that is once again, they keep showing her character is smart. Even half the time it felt like she was dismissing the stuff Solo was saying. She took it in, and here where she needed it, she's like, okay, I'm going to go under until I feel okay again. Love it.
Now when she comes back up, she knows there are people around other than Solo. Now, Bubba, hold on, Tio.
I think that is correct. I think what you said is correct, Catfish. But before she sees the person with the spotlight and gets hit with the arrow, I think there is also the thought of Solo has kind of shown himself to almost be split personality. Like he can be sweet, childlike innocence, and then he can be yelling right in your face, I'm Solo, I'm the IT Shadow. Like there's a part of me that wonders if you haven't read the book, if you're watching this and think maybe Solo has really just flipped a lid. Like he took the axe to cut it. Okay, sorry.
Doesn't she yell out, essentially, I don't give a crap about Solo. You can kill him if you want. I just need my suit, before she sees the light?
I think that was that was like a second. That was in the same scene. Like she's yelling that out, and then suddenly the person turns on the light.
Right. So I'm just trying to figure out how because you're completely right. She could have just assumed that that Solo went nuts, but somehow she's assuming there's somebody else there.
Right, which is the correct assumption. Ooh,
the
creepy
light
scene.
comes on.
Scene. I love that.
Holy cow! And she gets shot.
Whoa!
Now, Bubba,
really good. Katniss Everdeen is here. This is the Hunger Games with her arrow. She is going to take out some suckers. I love it. Intense.
Spoiler for behind the scenes. You are usually the one that does the entire breakdown of the episode, and then I just come on, do like 2 minutes of work, throw in some jokes, and I'm done.
But those are jokes.
I'll put that one mark that on the wall for you. Actually, I should put my name down in mechanical because you just killed me with that joke. So, but this time I did it, and so I was like, you know what? I need to be on my computer while I'm watching. I'm trying to watch my computer. The show is so dark. I barely sometimes can understand what's happening on my TV, on my laptop.
It is a dark show.
So I couldn't even tell whether she'd been stabbed. It wasn't until the girl said later, do you want to get shot with an arrow again? I'm like, oh, she got shot with an arrow. I wasn't even sure how she got away, Bubba. How did she get away from that? Because it was too dark, honestly, too dark for me to tell.
First of all, she waited for them to cut to a different scene so she could, make her way away. No, I'm pretty sure number one, obviously they let her get away. They shot her and they warned her and said, no mas. And then she went away and she went to, now this is where you really have to start knowing that Silo 17 storyline pretty well. She went back to what I assume is the person who did the cleaning suits apartment where she had been staying a bunch. And Solo had some medical equipment in there when he was helping her. And I think she, they let her get away. She has this arrow in her shoulder. She goes to this person's apartment where some medical supplies had been left, and she performed surgery on herself. And then did she pour the alcohol on her wound? Holy smokes, Juliette! Not only smart, tough as nails. Like she's gonna
need some more Solo biotics, Bubba.
She is. Get her some of those mushrooms.
And in the next scene we see her, she finds the stranger and they fight. And Bubba, the person gets exposed. This is a young person.
Not to me. I'm a Gen Z, so maybe to you, a millennial, it's a young person. But I just thought, there's somebody my age.
There's somebody there who is late teens, early 20s, really young.
Yeah, the Katniss with the arrow. She felt young too.
They're fighting, and then the Katniss shows up and asks her if she'd like an arrow in the other shoulder to even things out.
Right, you got to match.
Away. Whoa. Well, I mean, these people, it's funny. We got to find out because, first of all, the questions we have to answer are, did they know about Solo? Are they only concerned about Solo because he started coming out? Where are they from? I mean, they're from Silo 17, but how are they able to live?
These are wonderful questions. Now, book readers, no spoilers. But if you want to go in the comments and feel how you felt the reveal was of this young group of stowaways, to me, I don't know, maybe it's because one of my nephews, I think, just read it. It feels a bit like Lord of the Flies. They're coming out. They've taken charge of this silo. Holy smokes. So fun, so thrilling. That is where the episode ends. If you are somehow watching this months from now and are doing a binge and you're listening to our podcast, write us and let us know how this goes as a binge, because this is what you want sometimes from a binge where it's 1 a.m. and you're like, I got to go to work the next day, but you hit play because you got to know what happens next.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Good. So
all
good.
Right, Bubba, we've taken care of Silo 17. Yep. Insert Matt Gates joke. So where would you like to go next? A lot of these kind of stories intermingle. So as I was putting them in categories, there was some difficulty going on. So who would you like to hit next?
Well, this isn't kind of a complete story, but why don't we just talk about and we've always done the Sims family drama. Let's talk about the Billings family drama. Again, I thought all of the drama and storylines in this episode were good, but I wonder if this one was, it's such a different type of stakes. It's like a husband not sharing something with his life partner, his wife. That is a big deal. but it's such a, the stakes can't compare to, hey, somebody being shot with an arrow and being threatened life or death. So how did you feel about the Billings family? Like, honey, you didn't tell me about your page. So why don't we go there?
All right. Well, the funny thing is, that, basically the storyline between them is just a few scenes.
Yeah.
Patrick Kennedy is having some nasty tea made by Billings' wife, who it's an old recipe, maybe pre-war times recipe. And then he mentions the pretty page that Billings showed him. And Bubba, maybe it's just because Patrick Kennedy is a sleazeball, but I thought he was sort of like threatening Billings and his wife. Like, Billings has, and it turns out that it motivated a different thing. So I'm not sure that that's what it meant. And also Patrick Kennedy really has no legs to stand on. I don't think he's going to be absolved for his problems by saying, hey, guess what? Billings has got a relic. But that's the way it felt to me. But that's not what happened. In the next scene, Billings' wife is upset because Billings didn't show her the page. And she pretty much says, if you ever want any again, you better show me that page. Is it true? He shows her the page, and then he tells her that there used to be so many more things.
Beautiful up top.
Beautiful up top. There was animals. There was elephants.
Let me jump in on this, Catfish, and I just want to describe how I felt about it. Again, I think this actually was a brilliant drama. This is real drama. A couple keeping secrets. We have the Sims doing it a bit. This almost feels like
turbocharged with the Sims.
Right, exactly. And so it is good. It is interesting. And I think one thing that the show can almost never do enough of is remind the audience of how awe-inspiring it would be to hear about the before times, to see about them. All the books are gone. It is very tough for a modern viewer to comprehend what these poor people in these silos are going through and living through, and the lack of their own history they have. And I think that's a powerful scene. There's a part of me that thought most of these scenes, I'm like, boy, imagine if this was the midpoint of a season and suddenly we have, Walker turning in the down deep, being blackmailed by Bernard, and what could happen there? And Lukas being caught maybe in the middle between Sims and Bernard. Like, there could be so much drama. Here it feels like at the end of the season, this drama's just starting. But this scene, I thought it was good. I wish it had somehow come up, and it easily could have, actually. Now that I think about it, it could have come up in episode 5 or earlier. I thought it was good. Do you think Billings goes down to Patrick Kennedy and says, I'm putting the bullet back in you? We took the bullet out. You revealed my secret. I'm putting it back in.
Where the doc comes in, he's like, I'm taking away all your bandages. We don't have enough. I think I agree with you, and we'll probably talk about this later. He seems to be, it seems to be taking him quite a while to realize there's a difference between justice, honesty, and the pact.
100%.
So that part is going a little slow to me. To be honest, to you, like, as I feel like this kind of thing is happening with Sims and Camille, and it's happening in such a turbocharged fashion. I really thought, I don't think we need this. Why do we need this?
Okay.
So, but obviously it affected you more because it made you think more about, and maybe made some other people think even more about how starved they are for variety and beauty in the silo.
And speaking of variety and beauty, let's talk about Bernard and Walker. No,
I thought you wanted. Let's talk about Walker. Let's go to Walker next, because she had quite the episode. The first time we see Walker is she's walking through the door that the camera made us focus on very clearly early in the episode. They held on the door so we'd know what it was, and it was the door that Bernard rushed in. We know Walker is doing that. Bernard is still there, and he wants to make a deal.
Here we go.
Now, Walker,
let's make a deal. What's behind box number 2?
But Bernard knows that she is not a Simpleton. So he threatens to torture McLean, and he wants to make Walker his mole.
Yes.
Now, she agrees, and she gets to see McLean, who looks horrible. Bernard's like, well, most of this she did to herself, which is a little questionable. I don't think, I don't know how you justify that response, but hat tip to Bernard. So Walker's his deal with Walker is she has to turn her camera back on and stay in the workshop. Now, the next time we see her, she's in her workshop, and Shirley comes in.
Yeah.
Now, Walker lies to Shirley because Shirley had tried to stop her earlier.
Yep.
To say, don't go up there. What are you, crazy? And Walker's like, I got my own life. Leave me alone. So Shirley says the double M's.
Wait, the double M's?
Yeah, the miscellaneous mechanicals. Those are the group of people we saw earlier talking about their plan to get supplies. They were captured on the supply run. So Shirley says there's a snitch. Walker says nothing about a snitch and lies about her trip. And then it's just an amazing, amazing scene. So brief. Walker gives a finger to Bernard on the camera. We see Bernard. He's sitting back, smiling.
Yes.
Like the cat who ate the bird. I mean, he is just so pleased by this. So this is, I mean, Walker giving up everybody she knows for love, Bubba.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is she justified?
I thought that it wasn't justified at first. Like when at the beginning of the episode, they're talking about how they got to get supplies, and she is dismissive of Teddy and Shirley's plan, and everybody's there. She's like, "Oh, I don't care. And I thought, boy, this makes me not like Walker. But after delicious Bernard's wickedness, I told you I'd let her see her. You see she's alive. It is wonderful. And I love its tension on her face. They could have gone even further. And in some ways, I guess 8 out of 10. They went to 8. I wish they had gone to 10. And Shirley had been something like, yeah, Walk, we must have a snitch on the inside. And Walker should have said, wait, what are you saying about me now? Oh, wait. I am ready. I'm ready for terrible choices. People put in terrible positions. I love it. That's drama. That's excitement. That's the stakes getting raised. Again, it's not as high as somebody getting threatened with a arrow to the heart, but still really good. Love it. How about this? So last week I came around in Catfish. We know you had I hope I didn't reveal too much, but like you had serious issues happen on Christmas Day. That is so tough. But last week I realized that I do actually care about Walker and Carla. I do kind of want them to have happiness.
Okay.
But at the same time, how bad can Walker do? She turned all her friends in. They've all been arrested, or some of her friends in. How bad can Walker do before you say, like, okay, you've crossed the line. You're not on the good guy team anymore.
Okay, Bubba. Well, I was gonna talk about this later.
Okay, sorry.
But you've got no. But you've gotten to this point, so let's do it. Because I was a little confused by the timing. You are convinced that Walker is the one that gave up the miscellaneous mechanicals. Because it was a little confusing in the episode where she sort of says she's going to do a deal with him.
Okay.
That happens. Then she sees McLean. It wasn't completely clear to me that there was enough time for whatever she told Bernard that she was the one who caused the miscellaneous mechanicals to get taken.
I assume that, but no, you're right. They're definitely, based on what Bernard said, we have to trust him. There are other people in the Down Deep who are willing to turn in their neighbors to get ahead.
I think it was someone else, but I will tell you, I hate, even if she is not the one who betrayed the miscellaneous mechanicals, I hate Walker already as much as you can possibly hate someone.
Catfish.
I was not a fan of her already. She's just so grumbly. Funny. Yeah.
You have multiple times been like, oh man, I would turn these people in. You've said it yourself. And now that you see someone doing it, you're like, oh, they're the worst. But let me say
I don't know whether I've said that multiple times. I definitely have thought it multiple times.
I want to go back to Bernard, who we're focusing on Walker's thing.
Okay.
Bernard can't do it enough. The show can't do it enough for me. Bernard is, he almost could go to try to play on people's positive side and say, I am trying to save the life of 10,000 people. Like he says it, but it's mixed in with the threat part of it. I would love it if he once tried and said, listen, I'm trying to save 10,000 people. Throw me a bone.
All right. Well, you know what?
Yes, that's theoretically what should be so much of this drama of the show, is that we have people we like whose consequence could get everybody killed versus somebody we don't like who's devious like Bernard, whose deviousness might save them all. I mean, that should be as thrilling as I hope people are finding it. For me, it sometimes works, sometimes gets messed up in the wash.
Those of us who are Bernard bros have no qualms about.
Don't say that again.
Bernard's tactics. So speaking of Bernard's tactics.
Oh, let's hear them.
Do you want to go into the Sims family drama, which was so beautiful this week? Or do you want to talk about Lukas, Bernard, and the message next?
Let's stay with Bernard. Let's stay on your boy, because he hovers. He doesn't have a scene with any of the Sims, but he hovers over everything they do, which is so fascinating. Take us through it.
All right. So the first thing that we saw with Bernard, as I covered already, was him walking into that door that we focused on for like 12 seconds, and so we would know later on what it was. And we see Lukas walking into the old judge's apartment. Lukas's glow up is great here. He shows his credentials to two goons from Judicial, but they tell him to F off. Yeah. Then they recognize the color blue on his badge. And then they get all deferential. And then Bernard rose him up and orders him out. The glow up is looking good.
I'm saying. Now, just to impress Lukas.
Is in the judge's old apartment trying to break the 77 code from last week's episode. Mm-hmm. When Sims hears about this, I know this is part of this storyline. So even though we've got the Sims family drama, when Sims hears about this, he is PO'd. And he asks Amundsen what's going on. And Amundsen says, number one, I don't know. And number two, it is none of your damn beeswax. And then this is so beautiful because Jim says, whoa, I am the judge and you work for your Judicial. And Amundsen reminds him, when you had my job, did you report to Judge Sims other than on paper? And then Sims says nothing. And then Amundsen hits him with this. And then walks out, and that is a true mic drop, Bubba.
How about this? Are you, because he's on Team Bernard, are you becoming a Amundsen anon? Are you going to like Amundsen? I actually, I've kind of insulted his intelligence a handful of times. I think today he actually did everything 100% correct. And as you just said, he just did a mic drop. Team Amundsen, my boy Hank wasn't in this episode.
But I don't know. Does it even count when it's against Sims? I mean, first of all, don't judge anyone's intelligence against Sims. His own wife knows not to tell him anything because she knows he's a himbo.
How dare you? He gave a good threat we'll get to later, but okay. So look, keep going with this. Keep going with let's go.
Goes to the woman who makes the wool for cleaning. She's like, we don't have any wool ready. Asking about Salvador Quinn, and it turns out that these people are his descendants. They rightfully do not keep the name Quinn because, as we all know, Quinn, horrible. His father says, what do you want to know about that bastard? Now, Bubba, this made me think, what is there that I could do that 140 years after my death, someone would say, what do you want to know about that bastard Catfish? Now that is making an impression, Bubba.
Well, it'd probably be, I tell Hobo Deluxe about this bad rating you gave to an earlier Silo episode. I'm kidding. Okay, go.
So Lukas shows off his scary blue badge again, and his BDE is really growing. And he says he's looking for an artifact and threatens a judicial search. Now, what is kind of cool about this is It's a little suspiciously fortuitous, but it's kind of interesting. He leaves, and the dad follows him and tells Lukas, you need to work on your tough guy act because you're not a tough guy.
Yeah, he could have said the classic line, you get more flies with honey, right?
Yeah.
But of course, do they have honey in this?
You clean more dirt with wool.
Oh, there you go.
Now, Lukas goes to tell Bernard, essentially, I'm SOL. Yeah. And then Bernard, in even more, every time Bernard gives Lukas more secret information, the worse it ends up looking for Lukas's final disposition. But he says it turns out Quinn got a bad rap. He actually saved the silo by wiping the servers because before that there'd been rebellions every 20 years. So he wiped the servers and he put fluoride in the water, aka the forgetting drug, and people forgot about the rebellions.
The purity of essence, POEOBE. Dr. Strangelove fans know that.
Oh my God. The string has gone out in my leg. I can walk, mein Führer. All right, so then Lukas goes back to the Quinn's descendants, and he's nice this time instead of threatening him. He essentially says, you know what? You think you ain't shit, I ain't shit.
I know.
And so I'm still trying to find this. So now they tell him Judge Meadows had visited them before she became judge. She wanted books too, and they specifically mentioned that the judge had an old copy of the pact.
Yes.
Voila.
And how about this? Everybody was emptying out the judges. Doesn't everything get recycled? So theoretically, that pact would be recycled, and somebody'd open it up and they'd see, property of Salvador Quinn or whatever on the first page, and they'd be like, oh no, give me the brown pants. I mean, they get in deep trouble, man.
Well, I mean, and they probably, no, this stuff, any of these relics would not have been recycled. They would have been put back.
Okay. Would you, if this is a real copy of the pact though, so that's not, is it really a relic is the question. Man, this
if it's Salvador Quinn's, in other words, it's not either judicial or IT, specifically Bernard, is going to take that stuff out.
Yeah, you would think.
Bernard is too busy to look in the most obvious place, but Lukas is not. Yeah. So this is interesting. Lukas goes to the judge's quarters, finds the old pact. He uses the cipher, and it doesn't work, except... It does, because when he gets to that section, it says something about going another 20 whatever. So he's like, oh, there's an additional key to this. And he goes another 20 pages or so, and he translates the first part. If you've gotten this far, you already know the game is rigged.
Love it. Heck yeah. Now, how about this? Let's have a silo speculation right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
We assume that once Judge Meadows figured out what Salvador Quinn's code is, she started lighting up on liquor. Are we going to have a liquored up Lukas at the end of this season where he decodes it and he's like, booze me, liquid confidence, let's go.
I mean, it would take a lot of different things to happen. Not to say that it won't, for Lukas to survive decoding this book. Now, I think he's got a chance to make it, but things are going to get darker before they get brighter for Lukas. That's all. Well,
where is it going to come from? Is it going to come from Sims, who makes a threat we're going to talk about? Or is it, well, you know what, I'll ask it. Let's go to the Sims part of it. Or is it Bernard, okay, you've decoded this, but you know too much, Lukas, bye-bye. Or is it going to come from Sims, from this threat you're going to talk about? So talk us through the Sims.
All right. So as soon as he finds out the game is rigged, here comes Sims, all pissy. And he warns Lukas that Bernard will send him back to the mines once he's done with him. And Sims, by the way, Bubba, something incredible happened for the first time in 18 episodes in this show.
Oh, boy,
I had a full-on belly laugh.
Oh,
because
good.
Sims says Bernard will always be 4 moves ahead of you.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, who in the silo is not 4 moves ahead of stupid Sims?
No, we do, Sims. Listen, Bernard's always going to be 4 moves ahead of you and 8 moves ahead of me.
Because this show, Bubba, in so many ways, this episode, and I feel like the last episode, the last like 3 or 4 episodes, it's really hitting on like,
oh yeah,
not strategic Sims is. No. And when I say that, that's being nice. He what did Bernard say? He lacked curiosity. He also lacks, pun intended, common sense.
All right, but isn't it nice to know that this proves that, it's not just for Robert Sims, but opposites attract. Because Camille is like, let me see how I can help you. I mean, Camille got the information out of Amundsen, not her husband. Like,
right. So Sims says, Lukas, he says, you need a friend. What I liked about him is some people decide to use the carrot, some people decide to use the stick. And what happens is Sims holds out the carrot, and then when Lukas reaches for it, he also beats him with the stick at the same time. He says, you need a friend, but then he also physically threatens him, which is a triple S.
Triple S?
Sims' strong suit. The threatening is Sims' strong suit.
Sims and Camille, they are on the same page, except they're not on the same page. I don't know how to describe it. He confronts her about, hey, you didn't do this. You got to tell me. You got to tell me. Aren't we a team? Aren't we in this together? Now, would you have left Team Bernard's if Camille went, oh, yeah, right. We're on the same team. What? Oh, yeah. Sorry, honey. Yeah, that's right. What would it have taken to get you on Team Camille?
I'm on Bernard, bro, and I'm also in the Camille Corps.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, because it's funny because we were confused about this a few episodes ago. I was like, wait, she didn't tell him, right? And now we find out she really didn't. And I understand why she's not telling him because he doesn't quite get it. But it also feels like she should tell him so he doesn't blunder and do dumb things. So from my point of view, it's not you're hiding things from your partner. It's you need to tell things to your partner so that they don't F up your plans with their stupidity.
Okay, so Camille, well, I already kind of gave it up. You watch the episode, guys. Camille is the one who knows how to worm her way into Amundsen. Amundsen had already given the mic drop, which you brilliantly pointed out. But she's the one who's softening him up. Hey, listen, IT, you just, they're causing all the trouble. We've got this crazy thing in the down deep they're at. And then you got Lukas. I mean, the guy was in the mines. Now he's here. Can you trust Bernard with his randomness is almost what she's saying. And Amundsen is, I'm an Amundsen and on, but it does work. He sends the coded message to her husband. Thank God this was an easy code. Like if he had sent the Lukas code, in the middle of season 4, Sims would solve it. Go, that's what Amundsen wanted to tell me. But they go to the apple farm. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And Amundsen is like, listen, when my dad died, you were there for me. So number 1, here's a little scrap of information. Number 2, go to hell.
Yeah, tell your wife to leave me alone because I can't stand you think you're intimidating.
Right.
She is intimidated. Now, Bubba.
Yeah.
Here's the next question we have to answer. Okay, and I'm going to guess the answer is going to be the same thing. Did Camille tell Robert that she was leaning on Amundsen to give him information?
No, of course not. She's too smart to have said that.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is if she's going to be, again, she's smart not to strategize with Sims because he's not smart, but she should at least tell him so that he doesn't do things that could mess up her smart plans. So Camille, I want to be a member of the Camille Corps, but she's got to rein in the loose and not so sharp cannons in her close-knit group, and that consists solely of her husband.
Okay, well, who's going to join me and become an Amundsen Anon? And I'm a Hank Himbo, so let's do it. Himbos for Hank. Those are my teams. I'm going on those teams. Law and Order, baby.
All right, Bubba, we got one more story to talk about. It's the Down Deep Shirley, the Knox, and the Rebellion. And as we open up, Shirley is performing what I like to call a triple M.
A triple M?
Yeah, mechanical mortality marking on the wall of names. It's Cooper, which now feels like he died like 5-6 days ago. So better late than never.
Didn't he die at the most in episode 3? Feels like. And then 5 episodes later, it's like, hey, everybody, remember Coop? No? Well, I'm going to write his name up anyway.
And then Shirley has breakfast with Billings and calls him a lazy coward. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna I just have to say it. So if people are frustrated with my silly, nitpicks maybe of the episode, this was almost the first scene after we had that incredible beginning with Juliette, that incredibly tense, enthralling episode with Juliette. We have a scene then from that we see Bernard go in the secret door that you keep mentioning. We have Shirley write Cooper, like this stuff is still intriguing, still like, oh, we're building. And then we have this breakfast scene where there's even like small talk, like, oh, man, you ate those teeth breaking biscuits. Dude, it can't be the same show. This can't be the same show. You can't do this to me. I went 8 out of 10 because so much is good. All of it works.
Yeah, but then you went to 9.
But when true, I did go. Okay, so why did I start at 8 before I was correctly moved up to 9? It's like you're slamming on the brakes on me about let's have some biscuit jokes. And I love biscuit jokes, but it was tough for me.
Nobody loves biscuit jokes. Like you want to be dipped in the gravy of biscuit jokes.
Smothered and covered in biscuit jokes. But this one, know the time.
All right, well, okay, we do get to some stuff.
Oh, my Lord.
She calls
Billings and the Pact.
Because she calls him a lazy coward. She tells him he needs to do his job and start being so picky about the rules. But Billings is all packed. And Shirley says,
oh, my Lord,
it's time to call bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's her mic drop, which is very weak. And then she leaves.
Well, it's interesting because how that doesn't feel connected with the rest of the Billings storyline. Like the point of that scene isn't for Shirley. The point of that scene is really about Billings. Number one, to reinforce to the audience and to himself that, hey, even all the craziness that happens, I still love the pack. And theoretically, it could also maybe set up, why haven't I told my wife about the picture book and the page I ripped out? But it doesn't really feel like it pays off, especially. Billings, you're doing BS. It doesn't really feel like that doesn't pay anything in the later scene. So, okay, all right, fair enough.
All right. Now the next thing we see is the double M.
What? Okay.
Miscellaneous mechanical.
You sure it wasn't mechanical morality, Mark?
No. That was a triple M.
Oh, okay.
Explains the plan to break in a metal supply to Walker. And she has the same amount of optimism and joy for this plan as she has for life in general.
Yes.
She says, forget about getting supply from much needed supplies and instead get McLean out, which is only going to help if McLean's body can be broken down into medical supplies.
We'll use clothes for bandages.
And as I said, even the doc gets snippy at Grumpy Walker, and it is the most alive and emotional he has been on this show. And for that, Walker's like, there can only be one grumpy old person on this show. Everybody get out.
That's true. And so let's just get to the end. One of my constant complaints, and I still have this complaint. Everybody in this silo saw something they thought could not happen. Somebody went to a cleaning and they didn't immediately pretty much keel over and die. They walked over the little ridge and disappeared. I'm trying to think of what the equivalent in our world would be. Like, say somebody said, there's no way any human can fly. And suddenly they're doing something that you have been told is impossible. It's never been done before. Maybe that's too dramatic, but Juliette walking over the hill is so dramatic. And I would have a hard time believing that people in such a dramatic time would suddenly, once again, be telling biscuit jokes. Wouldn't it be going, bigger fish to fry, bigger picture questions than some of the shows has gone into? Yeah, boy, it's so hard to really come up with a real life example, but I'm saying that if you saw something so dramatic. Yes, because you have your friends, you still might kind of talk about the day-to-day stuff, but that big dramatic thing would be hanging over every conversation. And it feels like it isn't. It feels like they're so concerned about, hey, we got to get supplies. We got to get these bandages, which is a real concern the show has set up. But just like I loved the scene between Billings and his wife, because it really sets up that, how much they, any information rocks their world. It doesn't feel like we've had a really conversation with people really talking about, we just saw somebody do the impossible. We just saw somebody do the impossible, go over the hill. Now, okay, Bernard said it was good tape, but still it should be more of a conversation instead of, hey, we're going to and get ourselves up to supply. And
here's the thing. I'd never thought of that before, and I think that's brilliant that what you're saying, that isn't happening. It feels like there's two places that wouldn't happen. One with Bernard because he knows what's going on,
right? Yeah,
and two with the people down in Mechanical because they know it was the tape and are pretty sure that she's dead, but it doesn't feel like any of that's happening with the rest. Right. But again, we don't have we don't have another group of like middle people, right, anymore. We've just got people down below and we've got Bernard. There's true. Not another group of
No, you're right, because everybody who we knew either up at top in the middles, almost all of them have come down,
right.
That's a great point. And so, okay, what did you think?
No, but I still do agree with you that it should be at least on some people's mind that like this could have happened and that would be interesting. Now that still, that wouldn't stop me from making a biscuit joke, but I think that your overall point is well made that, this thing started because of distrust, but there still isn't like a kind of overall, like what is going on outside.
So I loved Catfish. You wrote it in the notes so wittily. I did actually like the, action set piece of the batarangs going up a balcony and then pulling the James Bond stunt. And then I loved the reveal of, hey, Amundsen's here. The Down Deep is in even worse shape than before. But it's almost like disconnected. The we got to get bandages. It doesn't feel like it's connected to the bigger thing of, oh my God, this, everything's a lie, everything's BS, as Shirley said at the top. So what did you think of my Amundsen boy pulling up a great move and saving the day, saving those bandages, saving those bandages for the people who need them?
You're just an you know what you are?
Let's hear it.
What was the term you used? Because it's wrong. I'm gonna come up with a better one.
Instead of QAnon, I was an Amundsen anon.
No, you're an Amundsen admirer.
He kept those bandages for the people who need them.
Yeah.
As long as they're not in the Down Deep.
Admirer. I'm in the Camille Corps and I'm a Bernard bro. All right, Bubba. Well, that is the episode. We've covered the episode.
9.10 out of episode. There you go.
I love it.
Okay, so now I have a judicial debate, which maybe goes to something that we haven't discussed much. Listeners, have you discussed it much? What do you think? And that is, people are all over the map. People have loved parts of season 2, and so I feel bad that we don't, we do in feedback, but people love season 2 so far. People have had trouble with it. And so one of the things, I was almost examining my own troubles, but also looking at maybe the troubles a non-book reader might have, and that is in our judicial debate, season 1 ended up with Juliette being sent out and getting answers, like for us, the audience, and for Juliette. It ended with her, kind of leaving the silo behind and getting answers. Like, oh my God, there are more silos, all this stuff. And then what's funny is season 2 is maybe as a viewer, you want, more answers. But Juliette, our kind of main protagonist, doesn't seem concerned at all with more answers. In fact, Solo tells her stuff and she's like, I don't care. Her big goal is to get back to her silo. So maybe it's a Wizard of Oz reference. We saw the book a couple of times, Dorothy leaves and her goal is to get back home. In this season 2 is Juliette's left. All she wants to do is get back home. Is that a satisfying show about, hey, I want to know more about what's out there and I want more, But our hero doesn't, as a viewer, the hero's goal isn't necessarily yours. Her goal is to get back to the original silo. Now, you don't want her silo to blow up and have everybody die, the 10,000 people die in there. But it does feel like an odd scenario. Like, hey, I'm going to get answers. We're kicking you out of the silo. Ooh, I'm getting some answers. Now it's like, okay, I have some answers. I'm heading back home. How do you feel that is as a motivation for a show?
Well, Bubba, I feel like you're almost leading the witness with the way you ask the question.
Yeah, no.
But I'm agreeable to be led. If she's going to spend more time outside of Silo 18, I feel like it would have been nice to hear more history about Silo 17 or the silos in general. We are now 80% of the way through the show. Whatever we get is going to be not as much as I would have hoped to have had to make it interesting. Because again, now it's just basically we're at the end of episode 8, and all of a sudden now we know there's more people in Silo 17. It feels like Silo 17 could have been a lot more interesting if we'd have found that out earlier and not spent so much time with Solo, where we went forward in their relationship and then backward in their relationship and then back forward in their relationship. So I feel like that's a little bit been wasted. I have enjoyed the time in Silo 18 more than I thought I would without Juliette. Like I thought I would enjoy it less without the protagonist, but I've been interested by that. But I would have liked to have known more about the world outside Silo 18.
Yeah, it's almost like Juliette left and she got some answers and we as the viewers got answers. But almost like since then, almost all the answers we've gotten have actually come from Silo 18 and Bernard, right? He knows exactly. He knows everything. We need him to tell more. Guys, I know I love asking you questions. You don't have to just comment about how terrible I am as a ranker of episodes.
But that's also good.
Hey, now we also want to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Are you still are you not frustrated with Juliette's past and the information you're getting? What do you want the show to be focused on in doing? What do you want for season 3? It's coming up because we're almost at season 3. Go down in the YouTube comments. Let us know on all social media platforms at PHQ. Woo.
But you know what I love is that we ask people to pipe in with reviews, we ask questions, and then I love it when we have our listeners get involved with everything. And finally, somebody is getting involved with the double D's, double Q's.
Wait, double D's, double Q's?
Yeah, the deeply dumb catfish questions. And we got one from Ignacio. I'm so excited. Please ask your deeply dumb question. And Ignacio's was, more importantly, my dumb question is, how did Solo make his own antibiotics? Bubba, you want to cover that?
Well, I was going to say about antibiotics, I'm also deeply dumb. I have no idea how you would make them. I think some people have put in the comments, maybe you grow mushrooms and can make them from mushrooms somehow. I have no idea. How do you do it, Catfish?
I mean, first of all, this guy seemed like he learned up to a 5th grade level. I mean, he does know about the bends, but he's still super stoked about elephants. So it does seem a little bit above his expertise, shall we say.
Say that again.
All right, Bubba. So now let's go to my deeply dumb.
Oh, okay.
Keep the deeply dumb questions coming. My first question is, does Camille think that Sims is a himbo? Good looking, but not smart enough to share her plans with?
Catfish, I love a question that can be answered with a mic drop.
All right, question number 2, Bubba.
Number 2.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'm mostly asking this because I want our listeners to answer.
Yeah.
Who betrayed the mechanicals on their Batarang mission? Was it Walker or was it someone else? Was there enough time for Walker to have said something to Bernard and Amundsen to get there?
I may be wrong, but I did think that in between her scene in the secret room with Bernard, or with the water pump room in Bernard, and the scene where he showed her love of her life, Carla McLean, I thought that's when she told him, and that's how
the scene followed, as they say, hard upon. So it was right afterwards. All right, Bubba, But so with the listeners, tell me if I'm right. If everyone says Walker, I'll agree. Or even if just one person says Walker, because as you saw with Bubba, I'm easily fooled. All right, Bubba.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Why is Apple having the first episode of season 2 of Severance on the same night as the finale of Silo season 2 on the same day that I'm supposed to be going on a mini brocation?
Whoa, Catfish! I didn't
Now,
know that.
I know that they are doing it presumably because all their many dozens of listeners of Silo will get an advertisement for Severance. I don't know. I don't think I've ever have I turned on an Apple show when there was an ad for something for another TV show? I feel like they don't do that, but at least it would be up there. But it seems silly. You know, HBO didn't used to do this. They would say, they would end a show, and then they would say, then they would have another show start the week afterwards, so you get extra week. So, Bubba, do they think they're going to get some? It is especially confusing because we're on season 2 of both these shows, so I'm not sure that you would be like, you know what? Gosh, that Severance looks really good, but now I got to watch the whole first season before I can watch season 2. It seems silly.
Well, everybody listening to this in the future, Apple TV, the first weekend of 2025, they had a free preview weekend where you could just watch all the Apple TV stuff without paying anything for it. You know, give them that first hit is the idea. And so maybe they're hoping that people who are in Silo who maybe hadn't watched Severance yet would give it a chance, or people who had heard the buzz about Severance give it a chance, and then maybe, you know, they pick up Silo because they've heard the buzz about it. You know, I think the idea of having 2 one-word shows that begin with S is a good strategy, and I'm all in favor of it.
Well, Bubba, I mean, you have to give it to him. I binge rewatched the first episode of the first season of Severance in about 4 days. Oh, it is so good. All right, Bubba. Yeah. Now it is time for the famous, what everyone loves, Quadruple M.
Matt Murdock.
His musical analysis. But Bubba, this week, Matt sent us a very snippy email. He said the only thing that was any interest was that there was a run down an Aeolian minor instead of a run up an Aeolian minor. And since it's obvious what that means to everyone, he did not tape analysis.
An Aeolian minor, what does that mean?
I have no idea, Bubba.
Oh, good. Okay. Great. Yeah, there goes some unsubscriptions. Instead of saying unsubscribed. Unsubscriptions. That's me, Bubba, begging for subscriptions.
All right, Bubba. Now it is time for my favorite part of the show.
Let's hear it. What's that?
That is reading feedback from our listeners. And Bubba, do we have some feedback we've got general feedback, and then we've got feedback already from this episode, which I love.
Yes, some great general feedback. Thank you, guys. We read all your feedback. We try to respond, and we read the best or our favorite interesting stuff here on the podcast. Amy gave us this feedback where Amy said she is a triple L.
Triple L?
A Legacy Learning Lukas fan. Love it.
Nice, nice. And DeAndre Dunbar says, you got my sub today.
All right. Yes. Thank you, DeAndre.
I would say Sims Family isn't my favorite, but I understand its purpose. There's turmoil brewing for Bernard, and Sims is a big part of that.
You are 100% right, DeAndre.
Yeah, I mean, I am enjoying Camille Sims so much. I don't know. I'm not sure whether they decided for season 2 we're going to emphasize Camille just because, well, I won't speculate on that. But anyway, let's move forward.
Hey, Vern. Vern sent us this feedback where he said, I only discovered you guys during the 2nd season of House of the Dragon. I wanted to say you're highly entertaining, love your content, and enjoying the back catalog of Double PHQ podcast.
Heck yes.
Thanks for the many laughs you've provided. Also, wishing the best to Catfish at this time. Thank you, Vern.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vern. I appreciate it. All right, well, Bubba, here's our episode 8 feedback.
Love it.
This is great. When we wait a couple days, we get some feedback. Gen X Cat Mom at all mod cons of Blue Sky says she gives season 2, episode 8 double W's.
Wait, double W's?
Yeah. WTF, Walker? She was unrecognizable. I don't get it. Double B.
Wait, Double B.
Brilliant Bernard. Oh, yeah. Gen X Catman was almost twirling his mustache at the end. So good. You could tell Robbins is having a blast. Double J.
Double J.
Juliette jumped. Whoa.
Ooh.
Quintuple L, Bubba.
Wait, a quintuple L. This is going crazy.
Low down Lukas Lackey, Lickspittle, Book Longing.
Let me say that, what is our podcast? Our podcast is you talking to your friends who watch this show. Sometimes we're serious. Sometimes we're silly. Sometimes we're making stupid inside jokes like our alliteration games. Thank you so much, wonderful listener, Gen X Cat Mom. Tim's Retro Corner, who is becoming, if not, one of our top double L's as well, loyal listeners. Tim wrote, on the plus side of episode 8, the show delivered on Juliette getting the bends.
Plus.
Uh-oh.
So the ponderously perfidious pump plods painfully along. So I guess that's 6 perfidious pump propositions for this episode from me. No. Lick Hogthrob, another loyal listener, says, oh, Lord, I've about had it. I give this episode in season 4 out of 10 double Ps.
Double Ps?
Oh, there it is again. Ponderous pacing.
Ooh.
Reminiscent of the epic Casey Kasem rant. The show is ponderous this season. Get on with advancing the freaking story already.
This is interesting. This is one listener who I think I liked the episode more than. Actually, 2 listeners in a row. So let's go to Miss Vicky, who's at Vicky Torius on Blue Sky. This is wonderful. Miss Vicky wrote, episode 8 was the worst. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's on a different page than me. They said this was the worst episode of the series so far. I found it very frustrating to watch. Some of the things that happened kind of made me mad. I will watch your breakdown to get your take, but I'm not at all 100% on how season 2 is progressing. I take comfort in the fact that I've read all 3 books and know how amazing and rich they are, so I don't get too caught up in how they're playing out. But it could be so much better. Whoa, that's 3 people who had trouble with this episode, Catfish, that you went up to 9 out of 10 for.
I know. Hey, listen, you know what? It's all valid, and we love to have this community and sit around. I mean, this is like, I didn't get to really have Thanksgiving with my full family, so it's like sitting around with my family and arguing about Silo. This is delicious. Now, Bubba.
Now, I was on my own last week, Catfish.
Oh, boy, what did you do?
I revealed a thing you should never reveal out about yourself.
Oh, boy, what did you do, Bubba? What did you do?
I said that when I was a kid and I watched that kid's movie, The Goonies, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bad movie, even though I was a kid and it was made for me. I didn't like The Goonies. And so Steve Hoover wrote me and said, you didn't like Goonies? What? I don't think I can trust your opinions any longer. LOL. Oh, Steve, I don't trust my opinions. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think.
Steve, I don't know why you've even been trusting his opinions this long. But you know what, Bubba? There is someone who would trust your opinion. One person at Victoria Henderson says, you were the only other person I've heard admit they didn't like the Goonies as a kid. I just didn't care for it.
Victoria Henderson, hashtag simpatico. Hey, we had a correction because once again, I was doing the podcast last week without you, Catfish, when you had this emergency. I thought that people were delivering folders to Shirley in the Down Deep. And Strawberry Fields and both Tim Roach were like, no, what was happening is they were asking the Down Deep for paper. Paper in the silo is very valuable, right? But they needed paper for their missile, their rocket they shot to the top to release those sheets of paper. And so that's what people were giving. Thank you, guys. I messed it up last week. Strawberry Fields 88 and Tim, you guys are correct.
I mean, if I could have been here, I would have told you that's what was happening. In fact, it's funny. I even thought tonight about saying that they could have used the pact to make more paper because it's valuable. But obviously that version of the pact with Salvador Quinn's name on it, that one is not going to go into common use. All right, Bubba. So we've got some ratings from episode 7.
So last week's episode, sure. Let's hear it.
All right, Cam Shea, 23. Harley Camille says, I agree. 8 out of 10. The switching and back and forth was my favorite. The last scene was great.
Wow. And then Tobe Wilson Network said that he felt the Down Deep scribbled note was more fulfilling than the pink letter because I made a joke about come and see, come and see. Like many people, Tobe said best wishes for you, Catfish, and the family issues you had last week. And he said we squabble a bit about the show, about the book or a podcast, but we're all having fun. That is exactly right. Now, Tobe writes, I love the music updates.
Good
music
luck.
Music theory is like magic as far as I'm concerned. There's no way Matt could. Oh, Matt let Tobe down. Ouch.
Well, he can look up the Aeolian scale or whatever the hell it was.
That's why we have Matt do it. He's brilliant. We are not so much.
All right. And
let's
so
go to Wayne. Wayne
let's
Rogers.
go to Wayne
Let's
Rogers.
go to him. So he's another one. Boy, everybody don't get frustrated that some viewers feel this way, and that I've said it enough. Certainly that could frustrate you. I apologize. But Wayne feels like the show writers took a risk by kind of starting things at such a desperate pace. But according to him, they've ramped up the intrigue, but not the action. I think that's probably true. And so because the intrigue works for me sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, I think that's where all my trouble is coming in. And he said he would like to see Lukas decode Quinn's message this week. Well, he decoded certainly the first line, and he thinks that's what's going to get maybe the action that I'm looking for going. Oh, thank you, Wayne. Wayne, I think you're certainly possibly right. We'll know in episode 9.
I love it. And Ignacio98 said episode 7, best episode so far.
A great person for feedback. Trouble Follows said Lukas becoming Bernard's shadow was the ultimate slap in the face to Sims. And he's saying, is it possible that Sims would flip to the rebel side, Catfish?
No,
would you like
no.
that? Trouble Follows. I love that idea.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know whether he will or not. All I know is he'll do whatever Camille tells him to do, which is smart. The smartest thing he could do.
Now, we've had this talk a lot of times, Catfish, about Billings isn't showing the syndrome. And so Cheryl said, maybe Billings has no symptoms because he's in the down deep, right? And the barometric pressure is more constant. Do you think that? That's too smart a thought for me, Cheryl. I want to come up with something like that. Pretty good.
Wow, that's pretty good. Let's ask the smartest doctor, Solo.
Oh, let's hear it. Yes.
All right. Zombitalian says, first off, best wishes for Catfish. Thank you.
Aww.
I want to first just thank everybody for the wishes. So got some stuff still going on. It's not with me, but it's close. But I am so happy to be here and be doing this with Bubba and joking around. And he said he missed his humor and our interaction. We're back. I'm back. With regards concerning the Sims family, I'm suspecting that Sims' wife is a flamekeeper and Sims is unaware.
Whoa,
as you
that
mentioned,
would be.
Her decisions help mechanical. Interesting. Why bring up the Flamekeepers in season 1 only to forget about it completely the way I have, Bubba?
No, Zombie Italian, I love this feedback because it is brilliant. If the show goes here, kudos to the writers. If they don't, Zombie Italian, they need to hire you. The fact that Flamekeepers was introduced in season 1 of these people who are trying to, keep the red level relics alive and in the stories of the before times alive and all this stuff. And I love Zombie Italian. That's just brilliant. I loved it.
Well, and also that would explain why Camille is not telling Sims what she's doing, because he definitely would blow that. And maybe she is and maybe who knows? Maybe she got with Sims just because she knew he was rising and basically she's just using him. Oh, I hope so, because I would have more respect for her.
How dare you? How dare you? So terrible.
All right, DV, this is about episode 7, says Silo 18 was fun this week.
Oh.
We finally see a vault. It has Van Gogh's sunflowers. Bernard loses all friends he didn't kill. I'm afraid for Team Bernard that Sims is right. He's planning to ignore the Delta event, and with that, he'll lose the silo.
Oh, well, Catfish, because you're so heavy on Team Bernard, do you think Bernard, do you feel fear for him like DV does?
I do, absolutely. I mean, if he loses, it feels like he's got Lukas, who no one trusts, and he's got Amundsen, who's been getting, basically his suspicions have been alerted by Camille. So he is in a little bit of a tenuous position here. It feels like he does not have the control that he needs to do all the stuff that he's doing.
100%, 100%. Now, Get Mic'd, and boy, everybody who gives feedback, we love. Get Mic'd, always good stuff. He gave episode 7, 8 out of 10. Hey, here we go. He said it was really good tension and interesting stories. His favorite scene was definitely the Sims Bernard. Ooh, did you not like Catfish? You weren't here to talk about episode 7.
Oh,
With
my
them
God.
going at it, you have no curiosity. Ooh, so good.
I'm being just and you know, it's great too, because you're right, but I feel like Bernard needs to have a little bit more curiosity and needs to be a little bit more nimble. He's doing everything by the book, and so far it is not doing well.
Now, Get Mic'd continued and wrote, I had a feeling someone would die in the episode. Maybe Hank would be stabbed in the cafeteria, or Knox would be assassinated. I think we're getting close to losing another main character. Bernard finding out about Carla and Walker gives me a feeling of dread. Well, it feels like Bernard's going to keep Carla and Walker alive for a bit here, Catfish. Do you have a feeling we're about to lose another main character? I mean, we only got 2 more episodes left this season.
Woo, that would be tough. You know, I feel like it's funny, because when I first saw the Mechanicals attack, in my head, I just assumed, of course, Knox and Sims are there. So I'm like, holy cow, Knox and Sims have been taken. And then there was an episode scene later on where Knox and Sims were alive. So I was like, well, okay, it didn't make any sense for them not to go, but good thing they didn't. Otherwise, they would have been captured. And that's probably the only reason why the scriptwriters didn't have them go. So, I mean, Knox and Shirley, sorry. So it feels like we might lose Knox or Shirley.
Ooh, no, we can't. We can't. The Down Deep, Teddy just got arrested. We're running out of character. Well, I guess since everybody moved to the Down Deep, we could have some kills.
Yeah, no, everyone's down there.
The final bit of feedback on episode 7 was that we're able to read this week is from Infinite Slinky. Great handle. They wrote, the show's mystery box format is its Achilles heel. Plots are stretched for the sake of episode count. People standing around talking in a room on this show is not entertaining. Well, Infinite Slinky, I think it depends on the people and what they're talking about. But what do you think? Do you think the show's mystery box has become, you kind of mentioned it already, Catfish, is the show's mystery box its Achilles heel? Do you agree with Infinite Slinky here?
Because we've heard so much from people, I'd like to know whether Infinite Slinky has read the books or not. It feels like people have read the books, like you, a bit like, they're holding stuff back so they can make it a big reveal, and the people who haven't read the books are enjoying those big reveals.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I like this week's episode, and I didn't mind the standing and talking around. There have been some scenes. It hit you tonight. I thought it was pointless. Billings and his wife. The scene between Bernard and the old judge.
Right. I
think on and on. So some of that I agree with.
Okay, well, I wish the Billings and his wife scene, and maybe either come at the end of season 1 or at the beginning of season 2. In episode 8, you really need to be ramping it up. So I did like the scene, but I also understand the, hey, get on with it, thought people may have. Before we get to the book talk section, we do have a bit more feedback about people wanting Severance. So if you don't want to hear about Severance, look at the show notes. We always give you a time you can jump to. So real quickly, Catfish, why don't you talk through some of these Severance feedback we got?
Alicia says, I don't comment on channels much, but I must say, please do Severance reviews. Seriously, there aren't enough channels that can critically think like you both do. And I would thoroughly enjoy your recaps and deep dives. Look at that. Someone giving us some compliments, Bubba.
Oh, wow.
Trying to make us feel like we could actually explain that crazy show Severance. Zombie Italian 4528 says, I vote the show with a 7 with a double S. And double P. Slippery Severance podcast promises. They say, do it.
Well, Catfish, you said you're going on a bro tour and you won't be able there for the first episode. Come on. Now, William Russell said, Severance is one of my favorite shows. I hope you guys cover it. Smiley face emoji.
And Get Mike says, please cover Severance. Pretty please. It's one of my favorite shows, and I'd love to see you cover it. I can sub in if you need help.
Well, Bubba, he might have to sub it. Get Mike might have to sub it on the very first episode if you're not even in town, Catfish.
Bubba, what if it's a mini? What if we do the last episode of Silo like that Thursday night,
Okay.
And then, Monday night or Tuesday night, we do the first episode of Severance, and then we can do a Severance on a weekly basis after that.
People are going to say, turn off your cut camera, because I'm already looking destroyed from this holiday season. So wait till I see how I look then. Thank you guys so much about Severance. We're going to see. We still have to see. So we apologize. We keep bringing it up as a tease, but we do want to give you guys what you want. Before we get to the book talk, is there anything you want to? You've already said it, but all these, I hope I didn't reveal anything. I said you did have this kind of emergency on, so couldn't be there for episode 7. And a lot of our listeners, you guys were great and sent well wishes.
Well, I just want to thank so many people sent good well wishes for me. Rainy 6, Leonard 16, Chris Alaska 5728, Link Hogthrob, Molly Keegan, Hobo Deluxe 007 did not extend his hatred of you to me. Wayne Rogers had some very nice words. Web Squizza, Ignacio 98, DVT 2483, Mara Thesayu, Christopher Walken here, which is one of my favorite. I love that. Zombie Talion, Patman, Get Mic'd, Toby Wilson Network, all that. I really appreciate it. I just, like I said, things are kind of still going and they're a little crazy, but I am glad to be here and, gosh, really appreciate the love. That's all. I appreciate it.
If you guys don't want to hear book spoilers, please stop the audio podcast now. This will be a second video on YouTube. You'll hear us next on our next podcast. We're talking about season 2, episode 9, The Safeguard. Billings' faith is shaken. Lukas heads to the deep down. Well, hold on. Let's pause this. Billings' faith is shaken again. Episode. Lukas heads to the deep down. Okay. Not everybody goes to the down deep sooner or later. Knox identifies a traitor. Is Knox going to catch Walker?
No, it's going to be the person who it was not Walker. It's going to be the person who ratted on the miscellaneous mechanicals. And then what?
And then the final thing in the official description of episode 9 is Juliette uncovers the truth about Solo's past.
Ooh. Oh my God. All right.
Hey. Hey, for everybody here at Double PHQ, my name's Bubba. You can find me on all social media platforms at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on social media.
And I'm Catfish. You can hit me up on Instagram and Blue Sky at G to the Man. That is GEETOTHEMAN. And we will talk to you next week on
The Cleaning.